Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Imperial Dane, with another 1 versus 1 for you today, and in fact another slight fun bit of news. This is in fact my 50th episode. So far I've done 50 episodes of the Propagandacast. I've gotten about 260 subscribers, so far so good, but of course I hope to do much more than that, and of course that also means we're about 40 subscribers away from 300, and of course when I reach the 300 I'll be doing another double cast, so subscribe if you haven't already, or tell your friends so they can subscribe. Anyhow, let's have a look at this map. This is wrecked train, a rather industrial map with one of the features being a wrecked train right in the middle of this, but of course, as we are staring at right now, a glider which has crashed right through a building. I bet no one survived that. So let's have a look at the opponents. In the south we have Mr. Right, I can't pronounce that, Krsjv17 as the Wehrmacht 716th Grenadier Division against 1 versus 1 Noobybrit, who we shall just refer to as the Briton of the 30th Corps, ready to give Jerry a right thrashing. Of course, it's a rather dense map in terms of cover. Right in the middle, plenty of wrecked railway cars, all sorts of fun goodness. We have the western side covered in buildings which provide for some positions for machine guns, some garrisoning, and of course we have this rather nice Putlevsky building covering this western victory point, while the eastern one is a lot more open, and generally this entire area is. So let's get to it then, and let's see who shall win. The 716th trying to hold back the British forces until more sound reinforcements can arrive, or will the British breach the defenses and continue on their way towards Caen? Recon section on the move, lieutenant on the way, so nothing new there. We see pioneers going out for both sides, and probably a third team. Yes, there we go, and a fourth team of pioneers, it would seem. This could certainly indicate the infamous pioneer spam, which involves basically going for a lot of pioneers, getting flamethrowers for them, and getting veterancy for them, which is in the current version a bit highly effective, in fact. And this will be brought against the British, in which it is actually quite powerful, since flamethrowers are quite effective against the type of armor the British troops wield, that is soldier armor, and the troops do have a bit of trouble dealing with elite armor, which is something that pioneers can gain. So we'll have to see 5 pioneer teams hitting the field. Apparently the entire pioneer battalion of the 716th are brought out into this fight. A bit risky, I'd say, but there you go. Although in the current build of the game it's not really risky, but you know, in terms of history, ooh, spooky. Anyhow, we'll have to see how he handles this. It will certainly be an interesting way to see if Mr. Noobybrit can overcome the pioneer spam, and of course if he who spams the pioneers will actually use it effectively. Plenty of manpower still being around, but that's because he is moving his truck forwards. Only one infantry team, that is a recon section and the lieutenant. Pioneers charging ahead, scouting around a bit already, with 5 pioneers been able to seize much of the map, which is certainly one of the strengths of it, that is you have 5 teams that can easily begin taking all the points, and with veterancy it becomes even more powerful, but doesn't seem like he's actually getting anything like that, although we see another pioneer team perhaps on the way. Let's have a look. No, going straight for the skirmish phase. So this could mean this is not our regular pioneer spam perhaps, but instead is merely a diversion until he can actually get it, forcing Mr. Noobybrit to assume, oh my goodness, he's spamming pioneers, I'd better react to that in whatever way it is best possible, while in reality he's merely using the pioneers to seize as much territory, making it a bit harder for the British forces to actually get any. And there we go, almost all of the map right in their hands, and setting up a Krieg barracks already. Quite interesting. This is certainly not the usual sort of pioneer force being sent out, as you normally would have had a creek barracks up and then some veterans out and flamethrowers, but apparently that is not the case. Heading back towards British lines, we see the pioneers are still skulking about, sneaking about, taking everything they can. Although not much combat, and a team running right into an infantry section that just finished arriving at this headquarters truck, and the pioneers are running for their lives. One man down, wounded and screaming for help. Second pioneer team running right into the infantry section as well, and looks like this pioneer team will be lost. Or do the Lee Enfield rifles constantly miss? It seems so. A bit lucky, in fact. Lucky. And we see a bit of movement here. Pioneers sneaking about. British slowly securing the points, going for these strategic cutoff points, denying them fuel, which is at least a start. And let's look back at the Wehrmacht base. I suspect we'll be seeing a Kampfkraftcenter all of a sudden to go along with that creek barracks. I wonder what he's putting out of it. A grenadier team and a half-track. Certainly an interesting move. Although grenadiers are certainly powerful troops, that is for sure, and with veterancy they can certainly become much tougher, and the half-track will of course allow them to reinforce on the field and of course offer fire support. If that is his intention, that is, though. We'll have to see. No doctrine yet for the German commander. Grenadiers going for this victory point. No real engagements though. Mostly just taking points from each other and, well, not really doing anything about it beyond that. I wonder if Mr. Britton will be doing something else. Yes, getting the support truck and a second lieutenant apparently. Oh, he lost the first one, it seems. Up to pioneers, and we see the half-track dashing ahead. Recon section getting a grenadier, and we see the light machine gun on the half-track firing away, although not doing much as the troops are on the retreat. Grenadiers continuing to seize the point despite the loss of the comrade, shot right through the head, bouncing off the helmet. Certainly quite the challenge for Mr. Britton to actually deal with this. He doesn't really have the firepower to overcome all of these numbers, and the grenadiers and the half-track will certainly only make it harder to hold back this tide. But we'll have to see how he adapts. But so far going for field support truck. Grenade going off right in the slit trench, only getting one man, but not giving up, and a lieutenant is quick to take up the spot. Nothing to actually deal with the half-track at the moment though. Sapper team on the way, so he's probably going to get some sort of emplacement, perhaps a Bofors, perhaps the 17-pounder. And I did get an answer as to why the British used the pound system for their guns instead of the usual millimeters or anything like that. It's because it's the system that refers to the weight of the shell fired or something akin to that. So there you go, the British don't measure by caliber, they measure by the size of the stuff they're throwing at you. So keep that in mind. Certainly a bold method, and we see a mortar pit going up. Panzerschrecks as well for the grenadiers, rather usual stuff, and looks like he might be going for some sort of grenadier force then, which I do believe is also common to a certain degree. Heavy losses for the grenadiers, though, getting off a second Panzerschreck off the support truck. Rather damaging. Second grenadier team caught out in the open. Again, heavy cover is directional, meaning you have to stand on the right side, otherwise it's for naught. Brent gunners buttoning up this gun, forcing the crew inside since they're not actually keen on being hit by the light machine gun. Grenadiers pulling back from the center, and we see a third team moving up for a fresh assault, although looks like they might wait for their comrades or they might not. Rather dependent, of course. And we have the commando doctrine for the British. Certainly the strongest, since it does allow for most mobility and of course has the most variety in units and abilities. You can call in artillery, you can get commandos, you can get light tanks, and you can get support weapons, so it's quite a lot for one doctrine compared to some of the others. And for example, the engineer doctrine isn't really that much useful at the moment, particularly since the Churchill tanks do lack a bit of firepower. German troops amassing for movements in the west, and in the south we see a large force going up. Numerous grenadiers with pioneers and flamethrowers, a rather nice Sturmgruppen, ready to assault the British defenses and perhaps knock them out once and for all. Looks like these grenadiers are trying to get out of there, but standing on the wrong side and will certainly suffer heavily, although the half-track will provide fire cover, except that it's actually getting buttoned up, meaning the driver is going to be rather careful, and of course the guns won't be firing. And we see the assault on the support truck. Fire and Panzerschrecks, that's certainly going to be a lost truck rather quickly. Recon member getting a sniper shot off on the engineer. Rest of the British forces are caught up in the west. German forces continuing their assault. And looks like we're getting a second support truck. British forces quickly retreating to amass all their firepower on the grenadiers. Going to be rather nasty for these grenadiers right close up to these Bren guns. Might want to get out of there before it is too late, and they drop a Panzerschreck to the British forces. There we go. Having lost numerous men, that's going to be a bit expensive, but they did manage to push fast back the British forces and recapture territory, although the British are still at it in the peripheral areas. Mortar still standing, and the British are continuing again. The half-track still standing and sneaking about, suppressing whatever it can with its light machine guns. Not looking too good, and we see a renewed assault, although no Panzerschrecks or flamethrowers in this round, so might be to the advantage of the British. Mortar rounds landing amongst these grenadiers, seizing the point. Looks like the Germans were pushed back from here a bit. Looks like these pioneers might be lost. Yes, there we go. Pioneer team down. Grenadiers being caught down out in the open. Not good. Again, you want to use cover. Just because they're grenadiers and have veterancy 1 does not mean they're invincible. Same applies to veterancy 2. As you can see, the Germans are in fact suffering quite heavily because of this laxity in cover usage. And we see the support truck is apparently milling about a bit right in the north. And a glider has been prepared. We'll have to see where he drops it. It looks like there was a mortar barrage on this point, which of course proceeded to hit the friendly troops. And I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be once. Half-track being repaired by the attendant pioneers. The British having secured the front line, having caused some grievous casualties. No further veterancy though, although it looks like they'll be getting veterancy 2 now. Perhaps because they haven't really had much access to their fuel points. Could be. Support truck moving up for the fuel point once more. And we see a fresh German attack. British forces preparing. Holding the line, firing away. Pioneers right in the center of it. Quite exposed. Yes, Pioneer team down. Only one left with flamethrowers as well. And what do we see? Nothing from the support truck. Mortar rounds landing, and we see rifle grenades upgraded. Quite nifty if used well. Can certainly do a lot of damage, and veterancy 2 is up, increasing their protection against small arms fire.